Hey everybody, today I want to talk about something really special to me, something that changed my life and made everything different, and it's never been the same since, and it's been nothing but positive and good fortune coming my way. And that's when I got my first houses. And the amazing thing is that the first houses I got were all at the same time, and I got 3 houses and I ended up getting 2 of them for free. And all I had to do was do a little bit of wheeling and dealing, and it all came my way. So make sure you listen for everything, because I'm really going to give you guys so much good information, and I hope you can use it. In 2011, the US was beginning to climb out of the pit of recession that came about in 2007. Homes were relatively cheap, and I had to move out of my grandmother's house because I had started a family of my own, and it was beginning to cramp my grandmother's style. And as a grown man, I really needed my own domain. I needed my own space. I needed a place that I could call my own and nobody could tell me anything. Did you know that in order for me to start making money from the content that I produce, that I have to have at least 1,000 subscribers? YouTube creators can't make any money until they reach certain benchmarks, so I would really appreciate it if you would help me out with the subscriber thing. If you go ahead and look at the number of subscribers I have, you'll see that I really do need your help. Let's make a deal. If I give you valuable information that feeds your mind and enriches your life in some way, you gotta give me a like and subscribe. It's only fair, and it costs you absolutely nothing. Deal? Alrighty then, let's get right into this.
Subscribe, motherfucker!
So my grandmother agreed that I should stay because I needed to save more money in order to buy a place. The idea of paying the high cost of rent in California was just not appealing at all. I'd watched many people pay rent for years and have nothing but bills to show for it. So I set out on a mission to achieve a rent-free lifestyle in my early life so my family would never need to worry about things like poverty and eviction. It's just tragic when you see kids and families get broken up by things like eviction and money issues, and I didn't want that to be a part of my life in any type of way. So I decided that I have to buy a place. It's my only option. There is no other thing for me to do. Paying rent is not in the picture. I can't do it. But making a decision really isn't enough. You have to start putting the steps into play to make things happen. So I decided to start from square one and consider what traits are truly desirable in an area. Wherever I moved, it would need to have a good climate and be economically feasible. I considered everything and I looked everywhere, but the most important thing for me to start out with was affordable. So I used Craigslist and checked real estate listings all over the United States, taking note of which areas had the houses for sale for the least amount of money. It was shocking how many areas had homes for next to nothing. In Detroit, Michigan, they were basically giving really nice homes away, but the weather was too cold and the crime rate was too high. And I remember considering purchasing an entire 60-unit apartment complex for the low price of $20,000, or a convenience store with an apartment above it for only $9,000. It was crazy. Detroit was really packed with listings that were super tempting. I thought about moving to a desert town like Lancaster or Palmdale, California, but even those homes were too high. The only place I could afford at the time was Stockton, California, and they got really bad crime out there from all the meth. California was totally out of the picture. There's nowhere in California that I can picture me living and being happy and having all the things I need: good work, entertainment. I don't want to be socially starved and live out in the middle of nowhere. I like beachy vibes. I need bodies of water. There's things that I need that I can only get from a place like California. So I really had to consider where I was going to move. And I also considered Texas, but all the decent areas were too costly. So you're forced to choose between living in the middle of nowhere and being out of your price range. And I wasn't having any of that. I couldn't do it. Next up, I started looking into the Midwest and places like Illinois, Kansas, Nebraska, Missouri, and all those places have really nice homes for cheap, but I felt like the local economies in those areas really suck and the weather gets too cold for my liking. Although the Lake of the Ozarks is pretty nice and it's becoming a bustling economy over there, and I actually lived out there, and that is a place that I would recommend because the summers are freaking awesome. The winters aren't terribly too bad. You can get snowed in for a month out of the year there sometimes, but it's almost worth it with how cool the summers are. Oklahoma was too landlocked and boring looking. The crime rate out there is pretty bad, and I needed some kind of culture that only a real melting pot could provide. I ended up settling on Florida because I would still have access to the ocean, and there's a large retirement community and a nice tourism industry that attracts a lot of money to the state, and the prices of homes are very good out here, and even now you can still get homes for around $40,000. They're getting harder to find, but you can still get something pretty nice for the money out here. And in 2012, $40,000 would have got you a 2-story house that was 2,000 square feet and maybe needed $10,000 of renovations. Now, at the time, I had only saved up $20,000, so my budget wasn't very good, but Florida was totally doable. I sifted through the real estate sites and Craigslist ads, and finally I stumbled upon 3 block homes in Ocala, Florida, and they were asking $12,000 for all 3 of them. The houses were made out of concrete block and had tin metal roofs, and they were all on the same street, on the same side of the street, so it just seemed pretty cool. I felt like I was playing Monopoly and I was about to buy Connecticut, Vermont, and Oriental Avenue. I figured block homes couldn't have termites because they're made out of block, and metal roofs last forever, and if they ever leak you could just patch them, so I didn't really have much to lose there. I called and I spoke with a guy, and he agreed to sell me the houses for $9,000, and we went into a 30-day contract, and when I read the sales agreement, there was a clause for reassignment, meaning the guy wasn't even the owner, and he was selling me the purchase contract without even owning anything. This is a scheme where people approach homeowners and tell them they are going to buy the home and close within 30 days, and once they have a contract with them, then they'll go ahead and turn around and sell the home for a higher price and keep the difference. And all they have to do is reassign that contract from themselves to another buyer, and they collect their funds at the time of closing. I didn't really know much about this back then, and I don't really like that sort of business because the idea of giving somebody my money who has no skin in the game is very unappealing to me. Something about him rubbed me the wrong way, so I decided to bypass him and contact the actual owner of the properties. Finding the owner of the properties was easy. He was the pastor of a church, and the contract and the homes were listed in the name of his church, so I just called the number listed for the church, and the property owner was an old fella, and I'm not sure he really knew what was going on very well. I think he thought the other guy was going to buy it. I don't know, but it didn't seem like he was privy to what was going on. The people who do reassignment of contracts, they kind of do things a little bit dishonest because they're worried about being exposed, and they want the people buying the property to feel like they're the owner of the property, and they want the owner of the property to feel like they're the purchaser of the property because they can't lose their power and they don't have any money in it. So it makes sense for them to be a little bit divisive, and that turns me off. I can always pick up on any sort of divisiveness. So it really didn't work out well for this guy. So I contacted the pastor and I told him that I was the buyer, I'm the one with the money, I'm the one who's actually going to be purchasing this house, and if he wanted to sell it to me, I didn't want to deal with the other guy. And the pastor agreed to wait out the contract and sell the homes to me for $6,000 when his contract with the other guy expired. So I had went from $12,000 to $9,000 and then to $6,000 with the power of knowledge and negotiation, but it gets even better. While I was waiting a couple weeks for the contract to expire so I could purchase the homes directly, I found out that the tax assessor was only appraising the homes for $1,000 each. This greatly alarmed me because I didn't want to overpay and I didn't know the area, so I was very leery of overpaying because you got to think, I'm coming from California, moving to Florida. I don't know the difference in real estate costs. All I know is things are astronomical out there in California. I don't know nothing about Florida, and what matters most to me is not getting screwed over by my lack of knowledge in an area, so I was really on my guard. You can easily find the assessed value of a home by using the tax assessor's website in your county or any county for that matter. It's public information and it's free of charge and it's accessible all over the United States of America. Let's say Ventura County, California. All you have to do is look up the Ventura County, California tax assessor, and then from there, you can find the property search browser where you can type in information like people's names, you can type in addresses, or you can type in lot or parcel numbers, and you'll be able to find the piece of property that you're interested in, and you can look at the history of how much people have bought it for in the past. You can look and see how many different people have owned it. It has a record of all the owners in the past. It has the record of the price that it sold for historically over the years. It has all that information on there, and it's a wonderful resource, and it's available in every single county in the entire United States of America. So that is a juicy tidbit of information that I want you to absorb right now. When the time came to buy the properties, I decided to hold off some more, and if the owner said anything, I was just going to tell him how I felt. I remember the exact moment that it happened. I was on a hike with my friends Randall and Donnell, and we were climbing this really steep hill in Thousand Oaks, California, and I got a call from the pastor. He asked me why I hadn't called him because he needed to sell the properties, and I told him that I had been studying the properties and they only appraised for $1,000, so I wasn't going to lose $3,000 by paying him $6,000 because his economic losses should have been his, not mine to bear. It wasn't my problem that they were only worth $3,000, but he wanted $6,000. So I'm not doing that. So he says to me, I know they're assessed at $1,000 each, but my price is $1,500 each, and if I can't get that, then I'll just hold them forever. So there it was, 3 concrete block homes with metal roofs for $4,500. That's $1,500 each. And as a Californian, this sounded like heaven to me because $4,500 was the typical cost one could face just to move into an apartment. I couldn't resist, and I agreed to complete the transaction as soon as humanly possible, and that's exactly what I did. Now, when you go to buy a house, there's a few things that you should know. Costs that I just wasn't aware of. Things like closing costs and title insurance. And I ended up calling around and getting estimates for these things, and everybody wanted to charge me about $1,000 per house. And to me, I thought that was crazy because it was the equivalent amount of how much each house was worth according to the tax assessor. So that didn't sit right with me. So I looked a little bit deeper and I found out that you don't even need title insurance and you can write your own deeds relatively easily as long as you can understand the legalese within the deeds, which is basically the words they use and how to use them and how they can legally hurt and help you. So I did some research and I figured it all out. It's really not that complicated. It's actually really easy because all you need to do is get the recorded deed that was used to sell the house prior to the current owner and copy it, but with your information on it, and then you have them sign it and notarize it, and then you can go record it at the courthouse, and then boom, now you're the homeowner. And that's how I saved $3,000 in closing costs. We sealed the deal, and I was finally a homeowner for the first time in my life at the age of 29 years old, and I bought 3 houses at the same time, and it only cost me $4,500. It was one of the most amazing times of my life, and I felt highly accomplished, and I couldn't believe how easy it was for me to become a homeowner. And I want you to know, if you're out there and you're watching this, I want you to know that this deal that I got isn't some one-of-a-kind deal. You can go and you can do the research and you can find these deals all over America. I know people who have gotten houses by trading a boat and a gun. My friend John Paul, he literally traded a boat and a gun and got a house. It's ridiculous. So don't think that this is like a once-in-a-lifetime thing and it can't happen again. And since then, I haven't had anything as good as that, but I've won houses for $4,000. I've won houses for $7,500. Tell me in the comments if you want me to make videos on each and every house that I acquired, how much I paid for it, and the circumstances surrounding the house and how I got it. Because each house that I got has its own story to it. Everything is so unique, but I can tell you this. Every house that I've ever got, except for one, I paid under $10,000 for, including the house that I'm standing in right now. This place that I'm taking this video in right now, I actually bought this house for $8,000. So, don't think that it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing and that you can't come into something really good. And I want you to know that I got your back and I'm going to help you get there. I was also officially a landlord and investor at the same time. It was one of the most epic ways you could get into the housing market. Luckily for me, even though I've never lived in Florida in my entire life, there was a friend of my family who ended up moving to Florida, and I was able to take refuge and live with them while I fixed up the first of my 3 houses that I got. Now I know my deals sound amazing, but before we get ahead of ourselves, you need to know. The houses were completely gutted of all the electrical and plumbing, and they were totally thrashed and they needed a new everything, but they had good bones, and that was the important part. Block walls and metal roofs are hard to destroy, and these places were in excellent shape structurally. The places were also extremely small. The biggest one was only 720 square foot, and the smaller 2 were 540 square foot each, But I didn't care about any of that because the smaller they were, that meant the less money it took in materials for me to fix them up. And I just needed a place to quickly move into. I didn't care. I just wanted my own place. It didn't matter how small they were. The size of them being small actually worked out just right because it was really convenient because the material costs and all that stuff was less. I worked every day from 6 o'clock in the morning and didn't even get home until 11 o'clock at night until I got the first house finished so that we could move in and get out of my friend's house. I remember that I would work until my fingers literally wouldn't grip tools anymore because I was so desperate for that first taste of living under my own roof with my own rules and being in a place that nobody could take from me and nobody could tell me anything about how I should live or what I should do, and there's no rules other than the rules I make because this is my place. Now, by the time I was finally able to move into my houses, all my credit cards were maxed out and I was down to my last $1,000. I didn't have a job and I was doing side jobs, wiring and plumbing houses under the table to pay my bills. Back then I was not as skilled as I am today, so I couldn't demand the same kind of money that I make now. So I eventually got a little bit hard up and I decided to sell one of my houses. I listed it for $8,000 and it was the best deal on the market at the time, strangely enough, and I let the buyer get it off me for $7,500 after negotiations. Now, it's really funny because 6 months prior to that, I was able to get all these houses for $4,500, and then 6 months later, now I can get $7,500. So let's recap. The houses were listed for $12,000. I got the price reduced to $9,000, and then to $6,000, and then to $4,500, and then I ended up selling one for $7,500. So you could say that I got 2 free houses and $3,000 for my wheeling and dealing. I've never been able to find a deal like that since, but I can tell you with 100% certainty that if you're looking, you can find a house for $10,000 or less. The house is going to need some work, but once you buy it and put that work into it, it's going to be your house and you will be the master of your own domain. And it really is attainable. Don't lie to yourself. Don't say to yourself that you need a 30-year mortgage or a 15-year mortgage or you got to come up with a $20,000 down payment. All of that is some bullshit. You don't need to think like that. You don't need credit to buy a house. I didn't buy houses with credit. You don't need credit to buy houses either. It seems like America is geared to make people go into debt. You don't need debt, so don't go there and live beneath your means and do what you need to do to take care of your family. You don't need to live in some expensive big city. I know you got friends there. I know you got family there. I had friends and family in California, and it hurt me really bad to leave them, but taking care of my family was my #1 priority, and having financial freedom was my #1 priority. And if you make choices in this way, you too will end up in my shoes and you'll have a more stress-free life and you won't have to worry about money as much, and it's really going to reflect and you're going to have more time to do what matters most and take care of your kids. I homeschool my kids. I'm constantly home with my wife every day. We work on projects together and we live a really happy life. Now, the area that I bought those houses in was pretty bad, so I ended up selling all of those houses to move to a better area because I didn't like owning properties in a ghetto neighborhood, and now I own 4 houses, including the one I live in, and I have a net worth of somewhere around $325,000, and I don't have to work anymore if I don't want to. I know I'm not the richest person in the world, and I'm not trying to impress you with fancy money talk or anything like that. I just want you to understand that when you hear people say that they can't do this or they can't do that, it's all in their heads, and you just need to look outside of your comfort zone and dive into the unknown. Right now, I'm at a point in my life where I can do pretty much anything I want, and I can pursue my true passions because I have all of my basic necessities met with my monthly income from my rentals and the fact that I don't have to pay any rent on the house that I live in. And now I couldn't think of any better way than to spend my time talking to people through these videos and helping them make good decisions. I remember being desperate and wondering what I should do, and I didn't have anybody who was kind enough to guide me or take me under their wing, and so that's really what I'm trying to do with you. This video is for everybody who's sick and tired of paying rent and living with family and not having the kind of control over their lives that they really need. I really hope that I've helped you, and if you have any kind of questions at all, please feel free to comment and ask, and I will do my very best to help you out. And if your question's good enough, I'll make a video on it. Now, we had a deal, and I know you're an honest person, and you're gonna do the right thing and like and subscribe. You're a man or a woman of your word, and I know it. Besides, if you don't like and subscribe, then my videos won't pop up in your newsfeed as much, and you're going to miss out on some valuable information. So quit playing and do the damn thing. I got a lot to teach, and I got a lot more coming out. And in future videos, I'm going to be talking about strategies that I've learned to acquire cheap houses when you're looking through all the realtor websites and all the Craigslist ads and nothing viable is showing up. That's one of my next videos, so you're really going to want to be alerted when my videos post. So go ahead and subscribe and hit that bell notification. And in truth, I'm kind of nervous about sharing my knowledge because I'm worried it's actually going to make markets more competitive for me. Keep watching me and I'll be your secret weapon. Until next time, just remember, put one foot in front of the other and take care of yourself and your family. We'll see you soon.